We're talking about the stages of success. Now, this is not a formula, it's just helping you understand the process that occurs most of the time, or a lot of the time. It just occurs unconsciously, and so I like to say we're having success by accident. But in fact, it is a process, and it's understandable, it's repeatable, like a good process, and you can become conscious of this process, and as you do, you can build it into your life. So this is not some kind of routine that you have to lay down, and I mean, you can, but at the end of the day, I think it works best when it just becomes part of who you are, part of who we are. And understanding helps us do that. When we understand that success is 3 stages: it's thoughts, words, and work. And there is no success without thought. Consciousness. We've got to be conscious of what it is we want. We ultimately have to become conscious of how we're going to do it. And then we have to become conscious of doing certain things and measurables and so on, depending on the level of complexity of whatever the goal is that we're chasing. So I talked about thoughts last time, and I made the statement that thoughts are things. And I'm going to elaborate on this whole success process a lot more sometime in the future. But for now, these are just little short talks on the subject. But thoughts are things, and I was just only musing on that this morning, and thinking that thoughts, they're like seeds. If you're going to plant a garden and you want flowers or you want vegetables, you have to have the right seeds, and you put those seeds in the ground with an expectation of what they will turn into. So they're full of potential, they're full of future possibilities, and these are thoughts. We have millions and millions of thoughts. I don't know how many thoughts a day we have, but we have a hell of a lot of them. And as we do that, we are engaging in the creative process, but very often we abort those thoughts, mostly actually, and they don't actually end up becoming something. Thoughts are like embryos. When we have an embryo in a woman's body, it becomes a human, and these thoughts can grow into very complex things. And that's why I make the statement that thoughts are things. They're the sort of the beginning stage of the process of success. And then the next process I want to talk about is the one today. I want to talk about how words are the molds into which we press our thoughts to materialize the immaterial substance of our thoughts. Thoughts is like it's like the matter of the unseen, and we can press it through enunciating and through proclaiming and through speaking and affirming, etc. We can press it into actual experience, actual material things that we can use in our life. So words are very, very powerful, and history is full of examples of it. And as I've mentioned many times, growing up in the Judeo-Christian enterprise and experience, I've come to understand that how powerful words are. The Bible's full of such stories and illustrations. A little motorbike going by. So that when you open the book of Genesis in the very first chapter, you start reading about how God said, "Let there be light." God said, "Let there be the stars and the moon," and God spoke his thoughts into the material world. And whether you believe as a Christian that was the creative process, whether you believe as a non-Christian or even an atheist that was just an analogy of the Big Bang, and all that noise was how we described God speaking, and it eventually moved from being just a massive plenum of plasma, and slowly over billions of years, evolved into planets and stars and humans and animals, etc., as we see today. It's not my point. My point is that there is a process there, and history is full of analogies and illustrations to show us how this process works. So I want you to get a grasp on this and realize that the things you say are taking thoughts and crystallizing them into experience, into physical matter, and oftentimes what we call luck in our lives. We think, oh, isn't he lucky? Isn't she lucky? Well, sometimes if you listen to what those people are saying and you engage them in conversation to find out what they're thinking and saying things that are materializing into their experience. And in fact, we're all doing it all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. So we're consciously having success, we're unconsciously having success. We're consciously having failure, we're unconsciously having failure. And it behoves all of us to lay hold of these principles because they're so vital to our enjoyment of life. There's not a person on the planet that I've ever met anyway that wants to be miserable. Sometimes we want to have our little pity party and not invite anybody unless they're going to say you poor thing. But really and truly speaking, in our hearts we want to be contented, we want to be satisfied, we want to feel successful, we want to be delighted, whatever the adjective is that describes you. You don't want to be miserable, and you want to have whatever success means to you. And so this is important for you to get a grip on this and get a clear understanding of it, of what the stages are, so that you can see how you can engage it, practically speaking. All right, so get a hold of this. In fact, maybe even this is possibly the most important of the talk so far on this topic. It would be worthwhile to make a few notes of the key points and just build them into your thinking, build them into your habits, build them into your attitudes, which are habits of the mind. And as you do that, it becomes part of who you are, so that you can just live consciously, moving in a positive, successful direction in your life. Okay, look forward to seeing you next time on the next little chat, where we're going to talk about the work stage of success, because there is a stage where there's work involved. See you soon.